I'd like to invite Lachlan Millar, member for Gregory, to come up and provide the official welcome. And then we've got a couple of other guest speakers. We shouldn't be too long. We certainly appreciate your attendance this morning. Lachlan, if you'd like to come up and officially welcome everyone.
Thanks, Steve, and thank you so much. Can I also thank some special people who've come along today, and that includes Andrew Powell, member for Glasshouse, David Crisafulli, the member for Broadwater, and John Krause, the member for Scenic Rim. And it just shows you their commitment to what we do out in Western Queensland, and I do thank them for coming here. I would have liked to have seen a minister turn up, but it just shows you, and I'm a bit disappointed, but it just shows you that the LNP are committed to Western Queensland, and I really do appreciate that, and I spoke to Robbie Chandler about that. Robbie, thank you. I welcome you, and of course, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, and can I just thank RAPAD for what they do for us in Western Queensland. RAPAD covers a hell of a lot of country out there in Western Queensland. Like the member for Gregory, we're very committed to what's happening out there, and to do something like this, to do something out of the box, is so important. As we know, drones are starting to become a part of everyday households right across Queensland, right across the nation, and we need to take advantage of the uptake of drone technology. Coming from a farming background, and what we see over there, that is what's actually happening and what we need to see happening in agriculture. It's the innovation that's going to see our yields increase, our profit margins increase, and for us to survive in Western Queensland. So finally, thank you for coming along. RAPAD, you do a wonderful job. And Robbie, who does chair RAPAD, does a fantastic job in advocating for Western Queensland. And I'd just like to once again say thank you for coming along. Thank you.
So I'd like to welcome Councillor Rob Chandler, Mayor of Barcaldine Regional Council and Chair of RAPAD, to come and share with you just a bit of a vision about RAPAD and where things are going into the future.
Thank you, Stephen, and firstly I'd like to pay my respects to the Turrbal people, the custodians of the land on which we meet today, and their elders past and present. I was thinking about those people this morning actually when I got out of bed, and thinking of what an ideal life they would have had here in the greater Brisbane area, where they went from Moreton Bay out to the Highlands and to the north, halfway to the Sunshine Coast and down the Gold Coast, compared to some of our mob, the Bidgera people and the Pitta people. And, those guys that were out in the Tanami Desert and the South Australian desert mob. But here I am, I'm thinking, 10,000 years later, I think it's turned around a little bit. I think that we have the idyllic lifestyle now out in Western Queensland. Thank you for coming along this morning, and of course I recognise some old faces around here in the government, that Andrew and David and John, and of course Lockie's our local member, and thanks Lockie for organising this, and Nikki and your staff as well for putting this together. Yes, the crowd could have been a little bit bigger, however it is just the launch of the Outback Aerodrone Symposium, and so I'm here I suppose to talk about RAPAD very briefly. And I remember many years ago when Deborah and I took on several different things. We had a 80,000 acre sheep and cattle property. We bought a motel in Barcaldine. Deb decided we needed a cafe. We leased a little bit of country. I said to a friend of mine, I'm a bit busy. I'm not sure I'm going to handle this. And his simple advice was, it's called management by walking around. Surround yourself with good people and the job's easy. So as chair of RAPAD, but also mayor of the Barcaldine Regional Council, I can say in both organisations we have a tremendous team that run the show. And I'm a little bit different to other, I'd say, local government representatives. I really do abide by the powers of separation. My job is a breeze. I go fishing regularly. I get to the gig on the microphone where I recite poetry and drink grog and have a lot of fun. But I know behind me in both organisations we are going forward in leaps and bounds. RAPAD, the Remote Area Planning and Development Board, is quite a model for rocks around Queensland. And often we've been asked to go and talk to different rocks about our success. And please don't let the cat out of the bag. Our success is very simple. We have 7 mayors that are directors of RAPAD, the company. All our councils and all our communities are dead flat. They're in drought. We all have the same needs, wants and aspirations. And it makes it so much easier for us compared to, say, let's pick on Central Queensland rock, where they've got Gladstone, Livingston, Rocky, Banana, Central Highlands, and I think Isaac. That's where egos come into play. I'm bigger than you, and you know, all that sort of stuff. Reminds me of a joke, but I won't tell you that. But egos do come into it. It's not about me. Everything we do is about we, and I think that you know, governments of the day today could learn a bit from you know, many years ago, where a lot of the deals were done in the true spirit of bipartisanship. Some things that really matter, like killing prickly acacia in the RAPAD area. That is our biggest issue at the moment. We're getting on top of the dogs, thanks to the federal government and the state government. In our cluster fencing program, it's one of the greatest economic boosters that's ever happened to Central Queensland, and along with the GAB scheme. The GAB scheme is the best environmental project ever in the nation, I believe. And so we are always thinking of ways to grow our communities. And one thing, I suppose, that we have been targeting now in Local Government Association of Queensland, and Sarah's here today, and the Australian Local Government Association, is to get the federal government to restore the FAGs back to 1% of Commonwealth taxation. It's the number one thing that would improve and help every community in Australia, bar none. But as far as, I've got to keep coming back to RAPAD, because I'm starting to get a bit sort of sidetracked on other issues, but they are our main issues out there. The RAPAD group of councils is an extraordinary setup, because we have the company and the 7 directors, which are the 7 mayors. Under that, we have our technical committees that work to bring recommendations to the board. Outback Regional Road Group are working with the Road Alliance, the Outback Regional Water Group and Sewerage Group working with the Water Alliance. We have the Central West Pest Management Group. We're also involved in Rural Financial Counselling Service, North Queensland, Small Business Financial Counselling Service. We teamed up with Employment Services Queensland to run the Community Development Program, the Work for the Dole, and we are one of the top providers in the nation with that program. Not because I chair it, it's because we find projects for the unemployed that actually get them a job in the future. So we are one of those few companies that will actually do us harm financially by putting people into jobs. But instead of giving them 50 brooms to go and sweep the CBD every day, we've got those people out and about getting qualifications on poisons, all their tickets, blue cards, white cards, machinery tickets, doing all sorts of interesting projects. We also were involved in the startup of Red Ridge, which was originally cicadas, and it's morphed into Red Ridge, which is a philanthropic organisation that is rolling out arts and culture right across Western Queensland. So we have a really interesting setup. We take on more and more, and I think because of our name and because we're a pretty solid organisation, we're finding now that government departments are tapping us on the shoulder and saying, we've got a couple of $100,000, can you roll this out for us? Simply because of the trust that's between RAPAD and all political persuasions. The Outback Aerodrone Symposium is really exciting this year, and I'll let others talk about that. But we did go to the Premier's Department the other day, the CEO and I, and as per usual, we're talking about being one of the legs of the Drone Champions League. And we're getting pretty excited. We're saying this would be the first in the Southern Hemisphere, the first in Australia, the first in Queensland. Let's have it in the Outback at Barcaldine. And we'll fly round and round the ski lake that we haven't got the water for yet. And that'll be our drone racing circuit. Oh, that sounds interesting, Rob, Stephen. That's a very good presentation. How much do you need? I just said $1 million a year for 3 years. Well, they sort of fell off their chairs. But as I said to Stephen, that's round 1 of round 12. And why don't we have a leg of that? Why don't we go Dubai, Paris, Great Wall of China, Las Vegas, Barcaldine? Why not? So we do think out of the box a little bit. Sometimes we're successful, sometimes we're not. But I just want to recognise the enthusiasm of my team here at RAPAD and my team in the Barcaldine Regional Council area for hosting this Outback Aerodrone Symposium. I thank you all for coming along this morning, and I haven't particularly named everybody, but I'd just like to refer to you as friends of RAPAD, and with friends like you guys, we can make anything happen in the Outback. Thanks.
Thank you. So now what I'd like to do is call on Dave and Christine from RAPAD to give a bit of an overview of RAPAD's drone strategy, where we're heading with drones, and to talk specifically about our Outback Aerodrone event being held in September 2019 in Barcaldine. So I'll first hand over to CEO RAPAD, David Arnold.
Yeah, thanks, Stephen, and thanks everyone for turning up, and special thanks also to Lachlan for hosting this, and a whole range of other people here. I won't single you out, but we're eternally grateful for a range of people here. And I think I suppose an anecdote for us, this push into drones is, as some people here would be aware, we're hosting, we're administering the cluster fencing project. I remember about 3 or 4 years ago, or about 4 years ago, and I put in the budget, I said, we better allocate about 10 or 20 grand, for media, because these things need promoting and that. And I happened to be walking down the street, Christine here beside me happens to be my wife. So I'm walking down the street in Brisbane, and we walked into a JP Hi-Fi, and next minute I've walked out with a drone with a camera on it. And I actually thought to myself, oh Jesus, how am I going to tell the board I've just bought a drone? It's cost me $1,600, I've wasted it, anyway, as it turns out, in that budget of 10 or 20 grand, I thought we'd have to get a professional, video maker, to do all this. And within 6 months, we're doing all our own camera work, promoting the cluster fencing and that just happened in about 6 or 12 months. For us, like for a bloke closer to 60 than 50 now, I just found that phenomenal. So our push into drones, as Rob said, we'd like to think ourselves as an innovative group. We do our best for the Central West. And so we ventured into this drone forum, and a couple of years ago, I think 2 or 3 years ago, we went to the World of Drones conference. We met some great people, Dr. Catherine Ball, who I think instigates, runs that. We met Drew there, IDS, so we have all these friends who have just said, can we give you a bit of a hand? And what they identified is, they said, you do have some unique characteristics out there, and the more we spoke, basically our characteristics are we got a hell of a lot of space, and you can pretty well crash a drone anywhere and not hurt anyone. And those conversations went to, well, let's host a drone symposium, and we did. And last year we held that. We had representatives from about 12 people from Japan came over, and also attended the World of Drones conference. And again, we've kept in communication with those people. Trade and Investment Queensland have given us great support there. So apart from nurturing that potential for exposing our region as a drone, a BVLOS, a beyond visual line of sight testing area, we're also hosting the symposium to build the capacity and make use of it in our region. And this year is very much about how do we bring aspirations to reality. Now, I was just speaking to Corey before that we'd really love that big drone there to have a gun on it, to shoot dogs and pigs, and he actually whispered to me he could probably do it, but it's possibly not allowed. So anyway, so So apart from that, I think the next stage, apart from building the capacity, we were well attended last year, it was great, is actually bringing that down to a practical level in agriculture, in local government. You know, at some point, you know, drones driving, flying roads, identifying potholes, and I think that's the next stage for us, is to bring this to reality, to build the capacity across the region. We truly believe we have, and we're told by these leading companies that we have unique characteristics there of the open space for drone testing. I'm just going to, that might do me, I'm going to hand over to Christine again, who really has taken the lead with Morgan here on all of this, the hands-on. Chris will give a brief. We went over to Japan earlier in the year with Brett here from Barcaldine Regional Council, so we're quite serious about this. It's not just a little aspiration and a bit of a dream. We understand the real world implications for this, and we want to be a part of it. So I'll hand over to Christine. Thanks.
Thanks, David. Firstly, I would really like to acknowledge the support that Barcaldine Council has provided to our vision, I suppose, as far as what drones can do in our region. And they put their hand up to help last year with the hosting of our event, which was funded out of the Advancing Regional Innovation Program, which I'm leading for our Outback region. And they were more than happy to assist with that. And then this year, they've again put their hand up to be part of that, the drone symposium, and also for the support in Brett joining me to come to Japan. We went over to display our Outback Symposium at the Japan Drone Congress that they had over there, but also to return, I suppose, the visit that the two companies that visited our symposium from Japan. So JSAT and Sky Perfect were the two companies that came over and visited our Outback Symposium, and we went back to continue our discussions there because they are really keen to come to our region and to do some testing in our region, which will be great. We were talking to the Fukushima testing site people, and their area, Brett, would probably be not much bigger than this speaker's green. And when we said that we were the size of Japan with about 12,000 people, they were actually blown away that they could actually come out to our region and do some serious testing in our region. So that connection that we're having there is something that we're seeing replicated in other countries. This morning, unfortunately, we were to have a Zoom meeting with a US-based company, but we've had to bump that out till tomorrow now. But they're interested in our region and coming and testing. Yesterday, I was at the Fraser Coast Drone and Innovation Showcase. And a company there, again, from Melbourne, is interested in coming and testing in our region. So we do believe that we've got that the great location there, and it's, you know, a report that was done by GWI, and Neil's here today, that again highlighted that we do have that capacity in our region. As David mentioned, we've got Drew Donald here. Drew has recently retired, I believe, from In Situ Pacific, but In Situ have been out in our region and they've been testing. We've got Corey here representing IDS. So we met Corey at World of Drones, and I think we may have met Drew at World of Drones in 2017 as well. So those connections that we've made have come about from I think it was Morgan and I at the first Myriad in March 2017. Mark Sowerby, who was the first chief entrepreneur for Queensland, introduced us to Catherine Ball. We went to the World of Drones. Ryan McMahon, who's here from Remote Aviation, we're having conversations with him, again through Catherine. So we've been really lucky that we, as David said, we've got these friends of RAPAD who are really keen to help us progress things. And one of the things that we're talking about with Ryan and with Catherine is how we might get some international drone study destination tours happening in our region. So there's some really exciting things that are happening. And again, I congratulate Barcaldine Council, who's really taking the lead on behalf of the rest of our councils in seeing how we can get this happen in our region. So a few people that I've mentioned there, and I do thank those, but I also need to follow up Rob's sentiments and David's about thanking Lachlan for his support in pulling this together, and Nikki, who has done an absolutely amazing job. So I really support that. And we are a can-do organisation, so I'll just ask Rob to come up, because you've forgotten something, Rob. We're a can-do organisation. Ask and you shall receive. Lachlan?
Yes, just a small token of appreciation, Lockie, and just for everybody, anybody who wants to know, $49.40, so he doesn't have to declare it on the gifts register. Anyone else wants one, they're $150.
Thanks, Mark. Thank you.
Thank you. So that brings to a conclusion our formal proceedings. What we'd like to do is if everyone could just come a little bit closer, and Councillor Chandler spoke about our work we've been doing with an international drone racing company. So we're in the process of pitching to host one of their World Series events in Outback Queensland. So we'd like to show you a little bit about DCL, so you can get a bit of a feel for what drone racing is, and it really is futuristic. And I suppose in 5 or 10 years' time, events like Formula One racing and those sort of things probably aren't going to exist. And this is going to be the future of sport. So thank you very much for coming along. Have a look at where we're going with DCL, and if you hear anyone asking questions around why is Barcaldine going crazy about drones, this will hopefully put it all into perspective. So thank you very much for coming. Have a look, and please stay around and have a cup of tea and a chat. Thank you very much.